Hey guys, what's up? We are having a look at this new 2019 Mazda MX-5 on some fantastic roads. If you're new to this channel, I'm Brian Makse, accomplished racing driver, and I just love driving fast things, especially things like this on a road like this. And we're gonna have an interesting look at this MX-5. But you know what really struck me is, going into this review, I get questioned all the time. Everybody asks, is this MX-5 overrated? Well, you know what? I haven't driven one in a while, so I think we should have a look. So join me as we have a look at the 2019 Mazda MX-5. Now, you may have heard for 2019 there are some improvements, and yeah, the big news is that there's a little bit more power, and we'll get into that. But one of the things I love, and that was sorely lacking in the previous model, was an adjustable steering column. So now you can adjust it for reach and a little bit of height. I think that's absolutely fantastic and addresses one of the concerns I did have.
The MX-5 is one of those special vehicles that's been carefully developed by its creators, so to undergo any improvements requires special consideration because, well, no one wants to screw up this roadster recipe, and in Japan, making the MX-5 worse would be a career ender for sure. In short, the 2019 updates include the engine changes to the driveline, a new exhaust, and the adjustable steering column, as I mentioned. It's a small list, and these changes are meant to enhance the driver-machine connection. The 2-liter 4-cylinder engine's rev limit is bumped from 6,800 to 7,500 RPM, and they've accomplished that by lightening the pistons and the connecting rods. They've also reshaped the intake ports and improved the fuel injectors. The net result is 181 horsepower at 7,000 RPM and 151 pounds of torque at 4,000 RPM. That's up 26 horsepower and just 3 pounds of torque from the 2018 model. My friends at Flying Miata, the highly regarded MX-5 tuners, put this updated model on the dyno, and those charts really tell the story. From lower engine speeds to 6,000 RPM, the old ND1 and the new ND2 are nearly identical, with the earlier cars having an edge with lower end torque. However, the magic really happens at 6,000 RPM. Where the ND1's power drops off, the ND2 keeps making power well past 7,000 RPM. Just by the dyno charts, the ND2's engine updates are transformative, and this MX-5 really loves to rev now. A dual-mass flywheel has replaced the single-mass unit, and the engine revs just as freely as before, but the new flywheel dampens out some of the driveline vibration. The change is subtle. The final drive ratio has been shortened by just 4%. Let's keep track of these small changes, shall we? Since this car has the 6-speed manual, there's still a limited slip diff in the back. Mazda's engineers created a new exhaust system for one reason only, to provide better sound. How do you like that? They even swapped out the old steel steering column for a new aluminum unit. Not that the size of the MX-5 demands it, but for 2019 they've added a backup camera. Helpful, yes. Necessary, no. Now, while not standard equipment, your Mazda dealer can retrofit Apple CarPlay into your MX-5 for a few $100, which would resolve the car's one glaring problem, the infotainment unit. Cup holders are said to be revised too, but heck, if I noticed, I just used them to hold water bottles. In total, the ND2 gains just 7 pounds over the ND1 and tips the scales at just over 2,300 pounds. In 2019, a car this lightweight is simply mind-blowing. Wow.
The MX-5 is still remarkably refined, and it's really about balance and harmony. One of the great things that Mazda engineers have done is they've let the suspension do some work. In 2019, there are so many sort of sporting cars that have overly stiff suspension. Well, this isn't one of them. The suspension actually works here. It actually moves, car rolls a little bit, but what that ultimately means is you've got great road feel, great feedback through the chassis, and it's just an all-around brilliant handler.
Behind the wheel, you've got nearly the perfect cockpit layout. The shifter sits perfectly within reach. The steering wheel is the right shape, diameter, and thickness. The pedals are perfectly laid out and make heel and toe as easy as pie. The shifter has that wonderfully direct mechanical feel, and gates are perfectly defined. If you somehow miss a shift, that's your mistake, not the Mazda's fault. Sure, the steering's assist is electric, but feel is still high quality, and it's as precise as any of its predecessors. Oh, and the turning circle is tiny. With this model's Brembo's, brake feel is telepathic, and I do love a good brake pedal. Maybe it's even a fetish for me, but this is one of those sports cars that you can easily position on the brake. Drive it into a turn on the brake pedal, encourage a little trail braking inspired oversteer, bleed pressure off the pedal, transition onto the throttle, and pow, you've just aced the corner. There are few new cars that can deliver on the promise of pure driving joy. This MX-5 is one of them. Mazda succeeded in making the ND even better than before, and it's head and shoulders above anything else you can buy today. It's exceptionally light and has the right amount of power now for that perfect power-to-weight ratio. It's also the poster car for balance and poise. And you can exploit nearly 100% of the MX-5's performance without having to worry about breaking the law. Because it's so light, so responsive, and has such great feedback, exploring the extremes of its handling limits is child's play. It's so approachable that it's a great tool to use to become a better driver. And if you're already a skilled driver, the MX-5 is one of those cars you can dance with in and around and even over its limits. It is the most fully resolved MX-5 to date.
Undoubtedly, the Roadster is my favorite. If you have to have an MX-5 coupe, well, get the RF, just don't drive it with the roof down at anything approaching highway speeds. There's just a little too much road noise for me, but I can appreciate that, some people might actually want an MX-5 coupe. That's fine, well, get the RF. But if you're into alfresco motoring like this, well, then definitely get the Roadster. This is the way to go. I do have one question for you. When was the last time you saw a car that didn't have a sport mode? Yeah, that's right. This MX-5 is one of them. It's sport mode all the time. Now, there's no need. Everything has been engineered and designed and developed to be rewarding to drive. There's no need for a more overly aggressive throttle or some other nonsense. And in fact, the traction and stability control systems do let you have a little bit of freedom in regular mode. It's just, it's really remarkable how they're able to get away with such a fun car in 2019. That's not to say that this MX-5 is perfect. No, it's not quite there.
The antiquated infotainment system is, well, dreadful in 2019. As I mentioned, you can have your MX-5 retrofitted for Apple CarPlay compatibility, which would resolve the issues with this system, but it'll cost you about $500 at your dealer. Although that steering column has decent adjustment, there's just not enough reach to my liking. I'd like to get the wheel an inch or two closer to me, and then it would be perfection. The trunk is still small, but that's not a sincere criticism because you know what you're getting with cargo capacity in an MX-5. That's no mystery. As for the exhaust note, well, it's quite pleasant, but it's still a bit too quiet for my liking. Just listen to it. It's not what you'd call commanding. And here's an interesting little story. I drove through an unexpected rainstorm in Southern California. Who knew that could happen? Anyway, me either. I was able to maintain speed on the highway, and the aero is so good that I stayed dry. Only a few drops of water made it inside the cockpit. That was the first and only time I've been caught in an MX-5 with the top down in the rain, and the fact that I stayed dry gave me a greater appreciation for Mazda's careful work with this car.
If you do think you want to improve your MX-5 by delving into the aftermarket, well, just be careful. There's a lot of nonsense out there. I will recommend having a look at what my friends at Flying Miata have done. The ND V8 model that they built and I drove is still one of my all-time favorite cars, aftermarket or production. That thing is just brilliant. So I'd start with looking at what Flying Miata is doing if you are so inclined to look at the aftermarket.
It should be clear that I am impressed with Flying Miata's work, and given that I think the ND2's stock exhaust note could be better, well, Flying Miata has a couple of exhaust bolt-on parts that'll bump the ND2's power by 16 horses and torque by 8 pounds, and it sounds great too. If you get a chance, you'll have to check out their work.
Is this MX-5 overrated? Nah, I don't think so. It's just brilliant. You can drive it at nearly 100% of its capabilities at any given moment. You can hustle it, you can throw it around. It's not gonna bite you. It is just an all-around blast to drive. Thanks for hanging out with us today and having a look at this 2019 Mazda MX-5. Hope you liked this piece, and if you did, be sure to click like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we want to know what you think, so please leave a comment below. If you like what we've done here, hit up our Patreon, links here and links below. And if you really did like what we've done, hit up our merch store where you can get some awesome Save the Manuals swag and merch and all kinds of other fun stuff. And thanks to Mazda for continuing to save the manuals. Really well done, and this thing is so much fun to drive. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time.